Hello. Welcome to our current events question and answer, current events of prophetic interest. I'm Tim Rosenberg, and with Islam and Christianity and Bible prophecy seminars. Just as I went live, I had several things pop up and cloud my screen, so I just had to fix that. Really glad to have you with us, and we're going to get right into our explanation of Daniel 11 and current events. So first, we're going to be looking at an overview of Daniel 11 for some of you who may not understand it. And for those of you who do, this is a brief way of explaining Daniel 11 to somebody as they come along and you meet them. Number one, Daniel 2, 7, and 8 all follow the same pattern. Babylon, Media, Persia, Greece, Rome, divided Rome with the little horn all the way to the coming of Jesus Christ. In Daniel 11, it actually starts with Media, Persia because they were the ones in power when Daniel wrote Daniel chapter 11. Now, I want you to notice the map. The Persians, just like the Babylonians before them, entered Israel and Jerusalem from the north, making them a kingdom of or from the north. Jeremiah calls them this in chapter 50, as he called the Babylonians a kingdom of the north in chapter 1 of Jeremiah. Following the Medes and the Persians, we have the Greek Empire coming in from the north. Then the Greek Empire divides 4 ways, but Daniel's really only going to be concerned about 2 of those ways. We have the Seleucids to the north, and we have the Ptolemies to the south. And Jerusalem gets caught in the middle. And from that time on, God's people get caught in the middle, as does Jerusalem. Then the Roman Empire takes over the whole Mediterranean area, including Israel, and they come into Israel from the north. Then the Roman Empire splits, and it splits multiple ways, but again, Daniel only focuses on 2, the north and the south. And we have the Christian north and the Islamic south. Jerusalem gets caught in the middle. The day of worship also gets caught in the middle. The day of worship for the true follower of God's word, the Sabbath, and for Jerusalem and Israel, the seventh-day Sabbath. But the king of the north didn't want to be called Jewish or Israelite. He changed the day of worship from Sabbath to Sunday. King of the south did not want to be called Jewish or Israelite, so he changed the day of worship from Sabbath to Friday. And even the day of worship that shows which side we're on gets caught in the middle. Now, there are 3 conflicts during the divided Roman Empire between papal-led Christianity north, Islam south. We have Arab Islamic caliphates during the time of the Crusades. We have the Ottoman Islamic Caliphate during the Ottoman Empire. And at the time of the end, verses 40 to 45, we have radical Islam with the final caliphate. Many have asked me, do they have the same God? And my answer simply is, many Christians and many Muslims are worshiping the same false God of force, fear, and anger. Do it our way or else. There are also some Christians and some Muslims who have found or are in search of the same true God of love, truth, peace, and forgiveness. And encouragingly, in Daniel 11, there is a remnant that comes out of Islam that joins with a remnant that comes out of papal-led Christianity to truly follow Jesus in the Bible. Now, let's take a look at the wording of the third and final conflict, the time of the end, our time period. At the time of the end, the king of the south shall attack him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots, horsemen, and with many ships. He shall enter the countries, overwhelm them, and pass through. He shall also enter the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown, but these shall escape from his hand, Edom, Moab, and the prominent people of Ammon. That's western Jordan. He shall stretch out his hand against the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. He shall have power over the treasures of gold and silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt. Also the Libyans and Ethiopians shall follow at his heels. All right. Based on that, in our 2011 book, we had some expectations. Radical Islam would anger papal-led Christianity. I later was to come to the understanding, which I hold today, that radical Islam actually are the Islamists, those who want to set up a caliphate, end-time caliphate to control the whole world with its capital in Jerusalem. The papacy would be angered and would call for war against radical Islam. The United States and their allies would supply the military support for the papacy. Radical Islam would be overthrown, the Islamist, Moderate Islam would follow papal-led Christianity, and a Muslim remnant would follow Jesus in the Bible. Those were all future in 2011. But in 2014, for the first time since the Ottoman Empire, we had a functioning caliphate set up, the Islamic State. And within 5.5 weeks, the Pope called for war against the caliphate, the Islamic State. Within 36 hours of that, the United States began to attack the Islamic State. Trump came into office and was really serious about overthrowing radical Islam, and the Islamic State was severely damaged. I would throw in this observation. During the first conflict of the Crusades, there were many waves. And during this time of the end, I'm looking at the Islamic State probably as the first wave, because there's aspects of the prophecy that have not yet been overthrown, but the King of the North has begun by calling for war against radical Islam. The fifth one, moderate Islam, would follow papal-led Christianity, and right now we're having the Abrahamic Accords, and many so-called moderate Muslim countries, which simply means they're opposed to the Caliphate, the Muslim Brotherhood, or Iran, and they are joining with Israel, and some of them have even signed agreements with the papacy against radical Islam or the Brotherhood. And then all over the Muslim world, we have probably millions, I know of hundreds of thousands of Muslims who are following Jesus in the Bible. And so all of this is now in the process of happening. And that's the exciting news, that we are in the time of the end with the end-time whirlwind conflict already beginning. I do believe that it will intensify quite a bit before we get to the end. So when we look at this chart, number one is the Crusades, then the Ottoman Empire, and then during the time of the end, we have a third and final conflict. I believe we've entered it. At the end of it, we have tidings from the east and tidings from the north in Daniel 11, which is the loud cry of Revelation. It's the greatest evangelistic opportunity of all time, because radical Islam goes down, moderate Islam follows papal-led Christianity, and it opens up a window of opportunity for God's people that actually that are following Jesus in the Bible to share the end-time message like never before, with fulfilled prophecy right in front of everybody, and everybody motivated that are true followers knowing that this is the last opportunity to share the gospel with the world around them. And then you have the plagues and Jesus comes. That's my understanding of what is coming. Now, what about current events of prophetic interest? Now you have an idea of the prophetic viewpoint, the overall picture. If you are new to this, now let's take a look at current events of prophetic interest. We have some unholy alliances going on. Trump and the conservatives are leaning towards the King of the North, which is papal-led traditional Christianity. Biden and the radical left leans towards the King of the South, or the Islamist Caliphate Islam. Now, I'm going to talk about that more in my next question and answer, which will be comparing Revelation 11 and Revelation 13 in their interaction with Daniel chapter 11. But let's take a close look at some of the countries that are involved in all of this. Let's take a look at how Trump and his leaning towards the King of the North versus Biden with his leaning towards King of the South plays out. Israel opposes Iran. They're against the Palestinian Authority as far as, they've had a lot of conflict with them. And both Iran and the Palestinian Authority are Islamists. They want to set up a caliphate, and they want the world capital of that political Islamic caliphate to be in Jerusalem. Thus, Jerusalem, the nation of Israel, has serious opposition to Iran and the Palestinian authorities. Because Trump also opposes political Islam, the Islamist, and Iran, he is very favorable to Israel. Opened up the United States embassy there in Jerusalem. Pretty much anything Israel wants to do, he's going to approve. And so he's gung-ho in favor of Israel. Biden, on the other hand, has serious questions about Israel. He will talk about supporting them, but at the same time, he's going to ask Israel to make concessions so that the Palestinian Authority, the radical Muslims, the Islamists, can get what they want. And he wants to make a deal with Iran to allow Iran more power than they would have now, and the opportunity of probable opportunity of developing nuclear weapons eventually. And so, interestingly enough, like I said, Trump leans king of the North, Biden leans king of the South. As we go on, we're going to see this in multiple ways. Egypt. El-Sisi, the president of Egypt, is very opposed to the Muslim Brotherhood. You see, the Muslim Brotherhood won the last free election in Egypt. So this plays out kind of like this. Trump, because he opposes the Islamist, also he is supporting El-Sisi, even though El-Sisi is committing really bad human rights abuses. But Trump kind of supports him because he thinks it's the greater evil of the Islamists. So as far as the United States is concerned, we're more threatened by the Islamists than by his human rights abuses. So Trump supports El-Sisi. On the flip side of it, Biden and Obama before him were very friendly to the Muslim Brotherhood. And so they are going to focus in on the human rights abuses and support more of the Islamists in Egypt. As you see, king of the North, king of the South type situations, and you just look at the political scene in the world around us right now, and you realize we have a very, very polarized situation. But most people don't realize that there is a tie to Daniel 11 here with king of the North, king of the South. Saudi Arabia. Oh, let me just share one other thing about Egypt. Egypt, I believe, will eventually radicalize and come under control of the Islamists, the Caliphate believers, the Muslim Brotherhood, etc. Remember, they won the last free election. Why do I believe that they will eventually radicalize? Because in Daniel 11, Egypt is overthrown. And so Egypt has not been overthrown yet. And so we will be looking for that to still happen in the near future. Saudi Arabia. And some of you may be hearing sirens. You're about to hear some more. We're right by a highway, and something's going on down the highway, and sirens are going by us. Yes. I'm not being arrested for anything. Saudi Arabia. Trump and Biden on the Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia also opposes Islamists. They're seriously in opposition to them. And it also commits some human rights abuses. But because they're against the Islamist, Trump supports them very, very solidly. Illustration. Jamal Khashoggi, the journalist, I believe it was a Washington Post journalist that's a Saudi citizen, and he went into the Saudi consulate in Turkey, and they killed him moments after he went inside. The world press was all excited and upset because they'd killed a journalist, but the press rarely ever mentioned that Khashoggi was a Muslim Brotherhood supporter and a lifelong friend of Osama bin Laden. And so, again, the political left was very, very upset about Khashoggi and the human rights abuses, but they weren't worried about radical Islam and the Islamist. Trump is worried about radical Islam. Again, Trump leans king of the North, Biden leans king of the South. And you can watch this nation by nation all the way through. And you keep this in mind, and your news events will be a little more interesting probably than they have been in the past as you're watching king of the North, king of the South imagery unfold all around you. Turkey is an exception. And it's kind of interesting, the exception that it is. It supports Islamists and commits human rights abuses. And Trump has supported them anyway. They are expanding their influence. They have been fighting battles in Syria. They were just fighting against the Armenians. They're in Libya. They're pushing around Greece. there's just one thing after another. Erdogan, the president of Turkey, wants to set up the caliphate, and he talks about Jerusalem being their city, and he wants to set up the caliphate with him being the caliph, but somehow he and Trump has been supporting each other to some degree. And possibly part of it is the United States has bases there that are being used to fight in the Middle East. And so we have this going on. And so Trump breaks from his rule, typically based on his opposition to radical Islam. He should be far more in opposition to Turkey than he is. But Biden also flips. Instead of being supportive of Turkey, he is actually opposed to Turkey. And so Turkey's this interesting exception where both the political left and the political right, Trump and Biden, have somehow switched sides from what you'd expect them to be. And so I'm going to keep watching that one with great interest to see what might be coming as we continue down this line. Now, Trump also supports traditional Christianity and opposes Islamists. That's King of the North kind of viewpoint. Biden, on the other hand, is not so supportive of traditional Christianity, and the political left is definitely not supportive of traditional Christianity and, your abortion situations and all that. And the far political left talks about racism a lot, and they blame that all on Christians, when in reality, the true Christians are the ones who brought an end to slavery. So these terms get thrown back and forth, and if you're really looking at slavery, the Islamists were holding slaves, and Islam were the slave traders and taking captives in Africa and selling them as slaves. So both sides have had their hands dirty on that, but it was actually true Christians that were fighting against slavery and against racism. Now, when you go to the United States public schools, the political right tries to get Christianity acceptable into the public schools. The political left says, no, you can't have anything to do. They are so extreme that there have been many cases in court where children were disciplined for bowing their heads and praying, thanking God for their food at lunchtime. They're told you cannot do anything religious in school. There's separation of church and state. On the flip side, public schools, teach many things about Islam. They have all kinds of activities. They even have Islamic prayers that in many school districts that the students are forced to participate in and pretend that they're Muslims and things like that. And the political left actually is pushing that, but they would never allow anything like that about Christian teachings. Now, you have to understand my position on this is that the schools should not be leading out in prayer. There should not be a designated prayer that is approved in school. However, students should be allowed to pray. And in other words, no religion, no state-sponsored prayer, but the state should not be opposing prayer and private prayer as well. And so that's been messed up. The political left has gone too far. I would guess the political right will come back in and try and push it back too far the other way as a result as well. So this is just a little more of the idea of Trump and the King of the North, Biden and the King of the South. Another piece here is in Revelation 13, the beast that comes up out of the earth with lamb-like horns, I believe to be Protestant-led United States, or the United States with the Protestants, working together to throw support behind the papacy. So how does that play out? Well, in Revelation 13, the beast with lamb-like horns calls fire down from heaven, works signs, wonders, and miracles, and deceives people. Now, leading up to the election, there were a lot of evangelical, quote, prophets that were claiming to have visions that were saying that Trump would be the next president. Some of them were a little more generic, and they were just saying that Trump would have a second term. But my observation simply is this. These people who are having signs and wonders these dreams are also involved in signs and wonders, miracles, things like that. And that's exactly what I've been talking about for years to be watching for. If Trump somehow was to pull this out and have votes overturned, and he wins this election and holds office as president, the evangelical Christians that have been having these dreams and visions and supporting him would be in a much more powerful position, and your political left, political right, very much in opposition to each other in the religious sphere as well. I do want to say this. No political party will save you. No politician will save you. Only Jesus will save you. No church will save you. Only Jesus will save you. We've got to be focused in on Jesus Christ. And if you're a Christian, well, Biden claims to be a Christian and Trump kind of claims to be a Christian. Followers of Biden, some of them are, the more liberal side of Christianity, and Trump, the more conservative side of Christianity. Which one is the more dangerous? I get asked that question from time to time. And here's what I would suggest to you. The most dangerous between the political left and the political right is the one that you are most naturally drawn to. Did you catch that? The most dangerous for you is the one you are most naturally drawn to. Simply because you see the dangers in the other side. But we often get blindsided by the dangers in the side that is most like us. And so, as a Christian, I want you to focus on Jesus. You should not be leaning heavily left or heavily right. You should be focusing in on Jesus and following him. That means you're going to get caught in the middle, just like Daniel 11 has Jerusalem and God's people caught in the middle. That's where you want to end up being, because eventually the king of the south goes down, then the king of the north goes down, and God's people are the only ones left standing. So what is my guess on what to expect in the near future? Well, I don't know if Trump or Biden will be the next president. It's looking more and more like Biden will be. But what I'm expecting in the future is that radical Islam, the Islamist, and the political left will end up so angering the political right and enough of the population that the political right will come swinging back into power. And when they do, the pendulum will swing too far. God's people always getting caught in the middle. And they will go out to destroy radical Islam and eradicate it from the face of the earth, just like Trump had earlier said that he was going to do. So that's really what I'm expecting. The political left and radical Islam will be angering both the political right and most of the rest of the world, just like radical Islam has even alienated much of the more moderate Islam around the world. In our next question and answer, which probably will happen in about a month, we will be looking at Revelation 11 and its ties to the King of the South, and Revelation 13 and the King of the North. I want to spend a little more time actually going through the text and showing you where I'm getting this political left. It's from Revelation 11 as following the King of the South, and Revelation 13, how Protestant United States ends up following and being the military support and power of the King of the North, papal-led Christianity. Other ministry events of interest in the near future for our church. The first two I don't think we're going to be live streamed, but on December 12th, Plummer, Idaho, which is south of Coeur d'Alene, 10 a.m. I will be leading out in a presentation there that will probably go to about 1 o'clock. And the 19th of December, I will be in McCall, Idaho, from 9:30 to noon. And then January 2, will be in Mountain Home, Arkansas, starting at 9:30 in the morning, and there'll be a couple of breaks through the day, and it'll end somewhere around 4:30 in the evening. January 6th is Zachary, Louisiana, and that's at 6 p.m. There in Zachary, Louisiana. I should say that the Mountain Home presentation should be live streamed. They have their own live YouTube channel, and you just put in Mountain Home Seventh-day Adventist Church, and that's in Mountain Home, Arkansas. You should find it with no problem. I've seen it there already. If you want to communicate with us, please don't hesitate to send us a message at islamandchristianity.org. And if anybody has any questions, we encourage you to be sending those in on the chat right now, and my wife will be reading them to us, and then I'll answer them. My wife Karen is with me here as we're making this presentation. Also, I am available for live and live stream events. COVID is coming back in, making it harder and harder for our live events. Hopefully we are able to do the live events that I just shared with you a moment ago, but I would be very happy to meet with any of you in live stream events. And contact us at islamandchristianity.org, and we can work out the details of that. It can be done either by YouTube, or we can do it if you have Zoom capabilities. We can do it with your Zoom capabilities as well. We do have a Spanish book coming out soon. Hopefully it will be early in the year that it will be available. And when it is available, you can probably get it online, but we'll also have it at our web store at islamandchristianity.org. We also have videos there and a variety of other resources at our islamandchristianity.org site. I'd also suggest that you consider having some small groups by video in your home. And to do that, you could either use online resources from our YouTube, or you could buy the videos from us, and you can get the handouts from our website. And again, if you have any questions, contact us at our website, islamandchristianity.org. Now we're going to go to question and answer time, and hopefully we have some questions. Otherwise, we're going to be done fairly soon. Let's see if we have any questions. Karen, do we have any questions at this point?
No, we do not.
I do want to know if somebody would respond and let us know if you heard Karen when she said, no, we do not. Actually, your comments can be very helpful on things that we might need to improve. There's nothing I can do to keep the sound of sirens from being heard when we're very close to the highway. Can anyone tell me if they did or did not hear Karen say, no, we did not have any questions? Okay. If you have a question, please type in your question.
Ben has a question. He says he did. Yes, but I don't see the question.
Okay. Ben, can you type your question in again? Benjamin, okay. Benjamin, are you retyping your question? I really probably should be talking about something, but it's kind of awkward waiting for this question. So, did you see his question any earlier, Karen? Nope?
Nope.
Okay. Well, whoops, sorry about that. If we don't have a question, we will be having to sign off soon because I hate dead air on my end of things.
Benjamin is retyping his question.
Okay, he will retype the question. We're waiting for Benjamin's question. And so I am hoping that Are we getting any responses, Karen?
Mary Lou said she can hear me.
Oh, good. You're heard. That's what we wanted to know. All right. Benjamin must have quite a question. It's taking him some time to get it retyped. So Benjamin, you don't have to worry if it's punctuated and spelled right. We're not going to put it on the screen. Karen will read it. And I'd also like to hear from you if you have any suggestions on types of presentations or aspects of things that you would like me to answer. That could be either be done here on the chat, or you could email us from our contact at islamandchristianity.org. Again, if you have any suggestions on the kind of information you would like me to share, any other programs that you would like me to give. And that would be very helpful to me as I try to figure out ways in the COVID environment to really reach out. I am hoping in the next week or two, hopefully sometime this week, to put up on YouTube an updated presentation number 5 so that if some of you are sharing our presentations, our 10-part presentations with somebody, you could go to the YouTube channel and at least have an updated presentation 5 that's newer than what's on our 10-part DVD. And that way people can always have an update without paying for a whole new set. And I don't really intend to be refilming those full sets because the film crews are expensive. Okay.
Do you believe the recent Iranian involvement with Venezuela about oil will be important to protect the King of the South gaining the upper hand?
Okay, yes. Right now there's a group of Iranian ships headed towards Venezuela. And they're bringing oil to Venezuela. Now, the irony of that is this. Venezuela is an oil-producing country, but because their infrastructure has gotten so bad because of the Marxist socialism, that Iran, now get this, the political left, Marxist socialism, Iran, radical Islam, is helping them. Again, we have the ties between the left and radical Islam. And they are trying to send in oil. And I am not sure if the United States is going to try to stop this shipment or not. Time will tell. There is a blockade, supposedly, to stop this kind of stuff. And so if that is stopped, then Iran may want to get even. And just as they want to get even for General Soleimani back in January when he was killed, and they're nuclear scientists right now. So these are all situations to watch, but it's not life or death for the Daniel 11 viewpoint if the oil flow makes it back and forth between Iran and Venezuela. However, it is clearly showing the ties between radical Islam and the Marxist socialism that comes from the French Revolution. So that one is clear.
We have another question from Mary Ellen. Is Kamala Harris a player in this Islam versus Christianity, and how?
Kamala Harris is further left of Biden. In the Senate, she was one of, if not the most politically left senators. And so when I'm seeing out of Revelation 11 a political left that is siding with the King of the South, radical Islam, she will be more prone to follow radical Islam and protect radical Islam than even Biden. So the polarization between the political left and the political right will become even greater. And if the political left is supporting radical Islam and radical Islam pulls off another major terrorist attack, the political left will, to a very great degree, get the anger of the country and or the world for supporting them before the attack. So that's my take on Kamala Harris. Do we have another question?
No.
All right. And so if we don't have another question come in with just a moment, I'm going to close with a word of prayer. Well, I'm going to have prayer, and if there is another question, we'll pick it up at the end. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for loving us completely. Thank you for Jesus. And Lord, help us not to hate anybody, but to love everyone, even if it leaves us caught in the middle. Help us to love people of all races, all ethnic backgrounds. And Lord, help us to truly love people from the political left, the political right, from papal-led Christianity, and from radical Islam. Because we know that you don't hate any of them, and you've given Jesus for all of them. Thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. You know I've been talking about the political situation between the political left and the political right. And if you're a Republican or a Democrat, doesn't mean you're lost or anything like that. It does mean you need to be very, very careful not to get sucked into following those party groups, because I'm seeing tendencies that they can easily go very much too far one way or the other. Make sure you're focused on Jesus and following him right up the middle, and you get caught in the middle, but that's right where you want to be in Daniel chapter 11. God bless. Look forward to seeing you again next time.